Why does heartbreak hurt so much? That's the question we're going to explore together. When you lose someone you deeply cared about, it feels like your world has cracked open. There's this hollow ache in your chest, this constant background noise of grief. But here's what's fascinating, it's not just emotional. Your brain is literally processing this loss as physical pain, and researchers at UCLA have mapped exactly how this happens. It turns out the same neural pathways that light up when you stub your toe also fire when you're rejected or abandoned. Let's start with attachment. Humans are wired for connection. We're social mammals. From the moment we're born, we need secure bonds to survive. Psychologist John Bowlby spent decades studying attachment theory, and what he discovered is profound. Our early relationships with caregivers create internal working models, blueprints for how we expect love to work. When those bonds rupture later in life, it triggers what's essentially a biological alarm system. Your nervous system screams, "Danger! Separation detected," even if logically you know you'll survive. This brings us to the neuroscience of rejection. A team at the University of Michigan Medical School did something remarkable. They put people in fairy scanners and had them play a virtual ball tossing game where they were excluded. The scans showed something striking. The same brain regions that process physical pain became highly active. Specifically, the anterior cingulate cortex, which handles emotional awareness, and the insula, which maps bodily sensations. Your brain literally can't tell the difference between being socially rejected and being physically injured. It's registering the same threat level. Then there's dopamine, the chemical of wanting and seeking. When you're in love or deeply attached, your brain releases dopamine during interactions with that person. This creates a powerful reward pathway. Neuroscientist Helen Fisher calls this the reward system of romantic love. After a breakup, your brain keeps expecting that dopamine hit, but it doesn't come. This creates what addiction researchers call withdrawal, craving without relief. You find yourself checking your phone, hoping for a message, scrolling through old photos. That's not weakness, that's neurochemistry. Your brain is literally searching for its missing reward. But wait, there's more. Oxytocin, often called the bonding hormone, plays a crucial role too. Research from the University of California shows that oxytocin doesn't just create connection, it reduces pain perception. When you're with someone you love, your oxytocin levels rise, which naturally dampens physical and emotional discomfort. After a breakup, those oxytocin levels plummet. You're suddenly without your natural painkiller. This explains why everything feels sharper, more intense, why small memories can trigger disproportionate waves of grief. Your body's built-in analgesic has been removed. Now let's talk about cortisol, the stress hormone. Studies from the University of Arizona found that people going through breakups have cortisol levels similar to those experiencing significant physical trauma. Cortisol keeps your body in fight or flight mode, elevated heart rate, trouble sleeping, digestive issues, that constant feeling of being on edge. This isn't just in your head. It's a measurable physiological state. Your adrenal glands are pumping out stress signals 24/7, telling your body to stay alert for danger. No wonder you feel exhausted even when you're doing nothing. Here's where it gets really interesting. Your brain's predictive coding system. Neuroscientist Karl Friston's research shows that our brains are prediction machines. They build models of the world based on past experiences, then constantly compare reality to those predictions. When you're in a relationship, your brain has built a detailed model that includes this other person. You've predicted their presence, their responses, your future together. After a breakup, every prediction fails. Your brain keeps expecting them to walk through the door, ticks back, to be there when you wake up. Each failed prediction creates a prediction error, a little neurological shock that says, reality doesn't match expectations. There's actually a quiet, beautiful game built around this exact idea of noticing what's actually here versus what we expected, a 3D sanctuary called Inner Phoenix. But more on that in a minute. Let's keep going first. These prediction errors activate what psychologists call rumination, those repetitive thoughts that won't leave you alone. A study published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology found that people spend more time thinking about rejected relationships than accepted ones. Your brain is trying to solve the puzzle. What went wrong? Could I have done something differently? What does this mean about me? This isn't obsessive weakness, it's your cognitive system working overtime to update its predictive models. Your mind is literally rebuilding its understanding of how relationships work, of who you are without this person, of what safety looks like now. So, what can you actually do with all this? First, validation. Before any advice, before any how to move on strategies, this needs to be said. What you're feeling makes complete biological sense. Your nervous system is responding exactly as it's designed to. The ache, the sleepless nights, the brain fog, these aren't signs you're broken. They're signs you're human, wired for connection, experiencing the neurological aftermath of bond rupture. Research from Stanford Center for Compassion and Altruism shows that self-compassion, acknowledging your pain without judgment, actually reduces cortisol levels and activates the parasympathetic nervous system, which is your body's rest and digest mode. Now, a practical shift. Instead of asking, how do I stop hurting? Try asking, what does this pain need? This comes from somatic therapy approaches developed by therapists like Pat Ogden. Your body is communicating through sensation. That tightness in your chest might be saying, I need safety. The lump in your throat might mean, I need to express something. The heaviness in your limbs could be, I need rest. By listening to the physical sensations without immediately trying to fix them, you start to decode the messages underneath. This isn't bypassing the pain, it's meeting it with curiosity rather than resistance. One of the most evidence-based approaches comes from expressive writing research by psychologist James Pennebaker. His studies at the University of Texas found that writing about emotional upheavals for just 20 minutes a day for 4 days significantly improves both physical and mental health outcomes. The key isn't to write a perfect story or find closure. It's to put the swirling thoughts onto paper where you can see them. This externalization helps your brain stop ruminating internally. Your mind thinks, okay, that's captured. I don't need to hold it in active memory anymore. It's like downloading files from RAM to a hard drive. It frees up processing power. Now let's talk about your vagus nerve. This is the main highway of your parasympathetic nervous system, the part that calms you down. Heartbreak often leaves this nerve underactivated, but research from the University of North Carolina shows simple practices can stimulate it. Deep, slow breathing, specifically extending your exhale longer than your inhale, humming or singing, gentle neck stretches, cold water splashed on your face. These aren't magical fixes, but they send signals to your brainstem saying we're safe enough to rest. They're like rebooting your nervous system's operating system, not erasing the pain, but giving it a more stable platform to process from. Social support is neurologically protective. A Harvard study found that perceived social isolation activates the same threat circuits as physical pain. But here's the nuance. It's not about quantity of connections, but quality of felt safety. One person who genuinely gets it can regulate your nervous system more effectively than a room full of casual acquaintances. Their calm presence literally co-regulates yours through mirror neurons and oxytocin release. This is why support groups work, not because people give perfect advice, but because shared understanding creates biological safety. And hey, if you're finding this video helpful so far, hitting that like button really does help. It tells YouTube's algorithm that this content matters, which means it can reach more people who might need it too. Let's address the timeline question. People often ask, how long will this take? Neuroscience gives us some clues, but no fixed answers. Brain scan studies from University College London show that emotional processing isn't linear. It's more like a spiral. You might feel better for days, then hit a wave of grief again. This isn't regression. It's your brain revisiting the memory from a slightly different angle, integrating new information each time. The intensity lessens gradually as your predictive models update. Think of it like a wound healing. First, there's acute pain, then tenderness, then a scar that occasionally aches with weather changes. The goal isn't to never feel it again, but to integrate it into your life story. Cognitive behavioral therapy research offers another useful frame, thought records. Developed by psychiatrist Aaron Beck, this practice involves noticing automatic negative thoughts. I'll never love again. I'm unlovable. And examining the evidence for and against them. The power isn't in positive thinking, it's in flexible thinking. Your brain right now is stuck in catastrophic predictions. Gently questioning those predictions creates cognitive flexibility. Never is a very long time. What's one small piece of evidence that doesn't fit this story? This isn't denying pain, It's preventing pain from becoming identity. It's saying, this hurts, and I'm more than this hurt. Physical movement matters more than you might think. Research from Princeton University shows that exercise increases neurogenesis, the birth of new brain cells, particularly in the hippocampus, which is involved in memory and emotional regulation. But here's what's crucial. Gentle movement counts. A slow walk where you notice your surroundings, stretching while breathing deeply, yoga that focuses on presence rather than achievement. The goal isn't to punish your body into feeling better, but to remind your nervous system, we can still move through space. We're still alive, still capable. Movement literally changes your brain's chemistry, releasing endorphins that naturally counteract stress hormones. Sleep is non-negotiable for emotional processing. During REM sleep, your brain integrates emotional memories, moving them from the reactive amygdala to the more reflective prefrontal cortex. Research from the University of California, Berkeley shows that sleep deprivation after emotional events makes it harder to process them. But here's the catch: heartbreak often disrupts sleep. So what helps? Creating a wind-down routine an hour before bed, reducing screen time, writing down worries so your brain doesn't need to hold them. If you wake up with anxious thoughts, getting up briefly rather than lying there ruminating, your brain needs this offline time to do its healing work. Let's talk about identity reconstruction. When a significant relationship ends, part of your self-concept often went with it. I was their partner. We were a team. Research from Stanford University on self-concept clarity shows that rebuilding identity after loss follows a predictable pattern. First, disintegration, the old identity falls apart, then exploration, trying on new ways of being, then reintegration, forming a coherent new sense of self. This isn't about replacing the person, it's about rediscovering who you are without that role. Small experiments help. What if I tried cooking just for myself? What music do I actually like? How do I want to spend a Saturday morning alone? Here's something counterintuitive. Sometimes the healthiest thing is to let yourself miss them. Research on emotional avoidance from Boston University shows that trying to suppress thoughts about an ex actually increases their frequency through rebound effects. Instead, scheduled grieving time can help. Setting aside 20 minutes a day to look at photos, listen to songs, feel whatever comes up, then closing that container and moving on with your day. This gives the feelings a designated space rather than letting them hijack random moments. It's like having a meeting with your grief instead of being ambushed by it in the grocery store checkout line. And if you're finding this approach helpful, consider subscribing. Hitting that notification bell means you'll know when we release more videos exploring these kinds of emotional landscapes. Neurological repair happens through novelty. When you're heartbroken, your brain's reward pathways are stuck in old patterns. Introducing small, manageable new experiences creates alternative neural pathways. This isn't about drastic life changes, it's micro-novelty, taking a different route to work, trying a food you've never eaten, listening to a new genre of music. Research from the Max Planck Institute shows that novelty stimulates dopamine release in different brain regions than attachment-related dopamine. You're not replacing the person, you're expanding your brain's capacity for pleasure beyond that one source. It's like training your reward system to notice other flowers in the garden. Boundaries become crucial during healing. This isn't about anger or punishment, it's about creating neurological safety. Every time you check their social media, you're reactivating attachment circuits. Every "maybe we can be friends" conversation keeps your brain in hopeful ambiguity. Neuroscience research from U shows that clean boundaries, no contact periods, social media blocks, returning belongings allow your nervous system to actually register the loss. This sounds harsh, but it's compassionate to your own biology. Your brain needs unambiguous data to update its predictive models. Fuzzy boundaries keep it stuck in maybe mode, which is neurologically exhausting. Let's talk about post-traumatic growth. This isn't silver lining toxic positivity. It's documented psychological phenomenon researched by University of North Carolina psychologists. After significant loss, some people develop greater appreciation for life, deeper relationships, new priorities, or increased personal strength. The key ingredient? Reflection on the experience, not denial of pain. Journaling prompts like, "What did I learn about what matters to me?" or "How do I want to be different in future relationships?" can facilitate this. This isn't about being grateful for the heartbreak, but about acknowledging what grew in the cracked open spaces. Your body holds the timeline more honestly than your thoughts. Somatic therapists like Bessel van der Kolk emphasize that trauma, and significant loss can be traumatic, lives in the body. You might think you're over it, but your shoulders still tense when you drive past their neighborhood. Your stomach still clenches when you hear their song. These aren't setbacks, they're information. They're your body saying, this memory still has charge. Gentle body awareness practices help discharge that stored tension. Placing a hand where you feel discomfort and breathing into it. Gentle shaking or dancing to release energy. Your body needs to complete the stress cycle that the loss initiated. Comparative suffering doesn't help. Others have it worse, or it could have been harder, are cognitive distortions that minimize valid pain. Research from the University of Michigan shows that self-validation, acknowledging that your experience matters because it's yours, actually reduces emotional intensity more effectively than minimization. Your heartbreak doesn't need to be the worst in history to be worthy of care. It's yours, it's real, and your nervous system is responding accordingly. Giving yourself permission to take it seriously is itself a healing intervention. And hey, I'm curious, what's one small thing that's been surprisingly hard since your heartbreak? If you feel comfortable, share in the comments. Sometimes reading others' experiences helps us feel less alone. Future planning needs gentle revision. When you've imagined a future with someone, your brain created neural maps of that projected life. After loss, those maps led nowhere. Research from Dartmouth College on prospective memory shows that creating new future projections, even small ones, helps reorient your brain. What do I want to do next month? Not, what will my life look like in 5 years? Planning a weekend trip with a friend. Signing up for a class that starts in 6 weeks. These create new neural pathways toward possible futures. They're like drawing new maps for your brain to navigate toward. Let's address the fear of never loving again. This is perhaps the most common catastrophic thought. Neuroscience offers reassurance here. Studies on neuroplasticity from the University of Wisconsin show that our brains remain capable of forming new attachments throughout life. The capacity to bond isn't used up or broken. What changes is discernment. You now have data about what doesn't work. Future attachments will be different, informed by this experience. They might be slower to form, more conscious, with better boundaries. That's not damage. That's wisdom encoded in your nervous system. Your heart isn't closed. It's becoming more discerning about what it opens to. Rituals can help complete what feels unfinished. Anthropologists like Ronald Grimes study how rituals facilitate transition. Creating a personal ritual, writing a letter you don't send, visiting a meaningful place one last time, symbolically returning their energy, can signal closure to your nervous system. The key is intentionality, not drama. Your brain needs markers that say, this chapter is complete. Research from the University of Connecticut shows that rituals reduce anxiety by creating perceived control over uncontrollable events. They're ways of saying, I'm actively participating in this ending rather than just being passive victim to it. Professional support isn't failure. Sometimes the neurological impact is too significant for self-help alone. Therapists trained in modalities like EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, or somatic experiencing can help process memories that feel stuck. Psychiatrists can assess whether medication might help regulate nervous system overwhelmed temporarily. Seeking help isn't admitting defeat. It's acknowledging that some wounds benefit from expert care, just like physical injuries do. Your brain is an organ that can get overwhelmed, and sometimes it needs professional support to recalibrate. This is especially true if you're experiencing symptoms of depression that persist beyond typical grief timelines. Integration is the final phase. This isn't about forgetting or being over it. It's about the memory becoming part of your life story rather than dominating your present. Research on narrative identity from Northwestern University shows that we make sense of our lives by weaving experiences into coherent stories. How you tell yourself about this heartbreak matters. Not, this ruined me, but this changed me. Not, I lost love, but I learned about love. The story continues to evolve as you do. Each retelling can emphasize different aspects, the pain, the growth, the humanity of it all. Your heartbreak becomes a chapter, not the whole book. So why does heartbreak hurt so much? Because it's neurological, chemical, biological, psychological, and deeply human all at once. Your pain isn't imaginary or exaggerated. It's your whole system responding to profound loss. But within that pain is also your capacity for love, for connection, for healing. And hey, before you go, there's a 3D game called Inner Phoenix. You walk through it like a quiet temple, with rooms for what you're observing, what you're feeling, what you need, and what you might try next. It was made for exactly these moments of heartbreak and healing, no pressure. It's in the description below whenever you're ready. Just scan the QR code to visit. Remember to be gentle with that heart of yours. It's doing the best it can.